Welcome to our deep dive into attacking anxiety and depression.
Wow, what a title.
It definitely grabs your attention.
It does. So this is a self-help course developed way back in the 1980s.
The 80s, big hair, leg warmers, and apparently attacking anxiety.
That's right. It was created by the Midwest Center for Stress and Anxiety.
And we've got a lot to dig into here. Audio lessons, workbooks, even some, let's say, vintage coaching videos.
Oh, I love vintage. It's like a time capsule of self-help wisdom.
Exactly. So today we're going to explore its approach to, well, attacking anxiety and depression.
And hopefully unearth some strategies that are still relevant today.
Yes, strategies that can help us and our listeners gain more control over our mental well-being.
Because let's face it, anxiety and depression are still huge issues today.
Absolutely. So where do we even begin with this 80s time capsule?
Well, what I find really interesting is that the course encourages looking inward right from the start.
Looking inward.
Yeah, it dives deep into how your past experiences and personality traits might be influencing your current struggles with anxiety.
So it's like detective work, trying to piece together the why behind our anxiety.
Exactly. And the course suggests that can be a powerful first step toward managing it.
Okay, so to understand our anxiety, we need to trace it back to its roots.
Exactly. It highlights some common background experiences often associated with chronic anxiety.
Like what kinds of experiences?
Well, things like growing up in a really strict household with high parental expectations.
Oh, I can see how that could have a lasting impact.
Or perhaps having siblings who were discouraged from, expressing their emotions.
It makes you think about how those early experiences shape the way we view the world and ourselves.
Absolutely.
Does the course suggest we can actually change those deep-seated patterns from our past?
Well, it acknowledges that you can't, change the past, but you can change how it affects you today.
That makes sense. You can't rewrite history, but you can rewrite your relationship with it.
Exactly. And then the course kind of shifts focus to personality traits that might be contributing to anxiety.
Like what kinds of traits?
Well, things like perfectionism or constantly worrying about what others think, or maybe having a tendency to, overreact to situations.
Oh, I know a few people like that, and myself sometimes.
Right. We all have our things. But those are areas where the course suggests we can learn to make changes
Okay, so we can't change the past, but we can change how we react to it.
and how we react in the present moment.
And that leads us to something you mentioned earlier, internally generated anxiety. It sounds kind of complicated.
It does, doesn't it? It's a bit of a tongue twister.
So can you break that down for us? What does it actually mean?
Of course. So you see, we all experience anxiety from external events, right?
Right, like a big deadline at work or a fight with a loved one.
Exactly. That's a natural response. But for some people, this, justified anxiety kind of morphs into a constant state of worry.
So it's like the anxiety takes on a life of its own.
Exactly. And the course calls this internally generated anxiety.
Internally generated, meaning it's coming from within, not from outside events.
You got it. It's anxiety that is fueled by negative self-talk and an overblown fear of physical symptoms.
So you're saying that my own thoughts can actually trigger physical anxiety symptoms. That's kind of scary.
It can feel that way, but understanding this process is key to, taking back control.
Okay, I'm listening. Tell me more.
Okay, so imagine this. You feel your heart racing after, let's say, a near-miss traffic incident. That's an appropriate anxiety response, right?
Yeah, totally.
But then you start thinking, what if I have a heart attack? Or what if I lose control?
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
These thoughts, those what-if thoughts, trigger the release of adrenaline and cortisol.
Those are our stress hormones, right?
Right. And they further increase your heart rate and intensify the physical symptoms, even though the original trigger, the near-miss accident, is long gone.
Wow. That's a pretty powerful example of how our thoughts can have a very real physical impact.
It's all connected.
This actually reminds me of the section on panic attacks. Does the course offer any strategies for managing those moments when anxiety feels completely overwhelming?
Absolutely. It dives deep into the mechanics of panic attacks.
Okay, I'm all ears. This is where it gets practical. How can we actually stop a panic attack in its tracks?
Well, the first step is recognizing that you're having an anxiety attack.
Sometimes we don't even realize it's happening, right?
Right. We get so swept up in the emotions that we don't even realize what's happening.
It's like we're just along for the ride.
Exactly. But once you recognize it, the next step is engaging in compassionate self-talk.
Compassionate self-talk. So instead of thinking, I'm going to die, try replacing those thoughts with something calming.
Exactly. Like, this is just anxiety. It will pass.
I can see how replacing those catastrophic thoughts with something reassuring could help break the cycle.
It can. And then it focuses on controlling your breathing.
Ah, breathing techniques, a classic for a reason, right?
Yeah. Right. Slow, deep breaths from your diaphragm can actually calm your nervous system down.
So we're basically hitting the pause button on our body's stress response.
You got it. Then the course suggests positive distraction.
Distraction. I've always thought of distraction as kind of a temporary fix, like avoiding the problem.
It can be. But in this case, think of it as a way to interrupt that feedback loop of anxiety. By shifting your attention, you're giving your body and mind a chance to reset.
Okay, so it's a strategic distraction, not just burying our heads in the sand.
Exactly. And then step 5 is, believe it or not, humor.
Humor during a panic attack.
Yep. Find something funny to, lighten the mood.
I love that. I think I'd rather laugh than panic any day.
Laughter really is powerful medicine.
So we've got recognizing the attack, self-talk, breathing, distraction, and humor. What's the final step?
The final step is to reflect on what happened. Once the anxiety subsides, analyze what triggered it and how you reacted.
So it's like a debriefing after the storm. I'm curious, what does the Course say about the role of loved ones or partners in these situations? How can they help someone who's experiencing a panic attack?
There's a specific section dedicated to that, which I thought was really insightful. It emphasizes the importance of, being supportive and understanding.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Avoid sarcasm or saying things like, just calm down, which can be incredibly unhelpful.
Oh, yeah. I can see how feeling judged or dismissed would only escalate the anxiety.
Exactly. It's about offering reassurance and understanding. The Course really emphasizes that you create the panic through your own thoughts and reactions.
So we have more control than we think we do.
You got it. And
Yeah.
that you have the power to manage it.
That's a really empowering message.
It is. And it's a message that, weaves throughout the entire program.
Welcome back to our deep dive into attacking anxiety and depression from the 1980s, back to the 80s, where the music was big, the hair was bigger, and self-help advice was, well, unique.
Totally. But, as we're going through this material, I'm really struck by its emphasis on personal responsibility.
Personal responsibility.
Yeah. It's not about pointing fingers or blaming external factors,
Oh, I see what you mean. Like, it's not the world's fault I'm anxious.
Right. It's about empowering you to kind of become the architect of your own mental well-being.
Okay, so it's about taking ownership of our anxiety and depression.
Exactly. And that brings us to something called should rules.
Should rules. What are those?
Well, should rules are those often unspoken expectations we put on ourselves and others.
Like, I should be more successful, or my partner should be more romantic.
Exactly. Those kinds of things.
Oh, I know those shoulds all too well. They can really mess with your head.
They can. And the Course suggests that these shoulds often lead to, feelings of disappointment and resentment.
So those shoulds are actually fueling our anxiety and depression.
They can. And the Course encourages us to really examine those shoulds, to ask ourselves, are these expectations realistic?
So it's about becoming aware of those internalized expectations and then, what? Challenging them.
Exactly. Are they really serving you well? Or are they just causing unnecessary stress and unhappiness?
Sounds like learning to challenge those should rules could be a powerful tool for, like, shifting our perspective.
It can be. Letting go of unrealistic expectations can be incredibly liberating.
It's like taking a huge weight off your shoulders.
It can be. It opens up space for greater self-acceptance and contentment.
Have you ever noticed those should rules popping up in your own life?
Oh, absolutely. I remember a time when I felt like, I should be able to handle everything perfectly, both at work and at home.
Oh, the pressure to be perfect. I know that feeling.
It's tough. And,
Yeah.
it created immense pressure and ultimately led to burnout.
So how did you break free from that should trap?
Well, it wasn't until I started, questioning those shoulds and recognizing my own limitations that I could create a more balanced and fulfilling life.
That's such a relatable experience. It's a good reminder that we all have limits, and acknowledging them is not a sign of weakness.
Not at all.
It's actually a path to, like, greater self-awareness.
Yeah.
And that actually brings us to another area the Course addresses limitations, but physical limitations this time.
Right.
What stood out to you about this section?
Well, what I found really fascinating is that the Course doesn't frame these limitations as obstacles.
So it's not like, oh no, I have limitations, this is terrible.
Not at all. It's more like these limitations are opportunities for growth.
I love that. It's like, instead of getting stuck in an I can't mindset, It's about shifting to how can I?
Exactly. And that subtle shift in perspective can make all the difference.
So it's not about denying our limitations, but rather finding ways to kind of navigate them, work with them.
Right.
Does the course give any specific examples of how to do that?
It does. It offers some really practical advice, like breaking down big goals into smaller, more achievable steps.
So it's about making those goals less intimidating. Right.
Right. And it reminds us to, be patient with ourselves. Change takes time.
So it's about celebrating those small victories along the way and not getting discouraged by setbacks.
Exactly.
What else stood out to you about this section?
Well, it also emphasizes the importance of, using positive self-talk to combat those negative thoughts that can come up when we face limitations.
So instead of telling yourself, I'll never be able to do this, you might say something like, I'm learning and growing and I'm getting closer to my goal every day.
Exactly. That kind of positive self-talk can be a real game changer when it comes to, staying motivated and focused on your journey, even when things get tough.
It's encouraging to hear that even back in the 1980s, the power of positive self-talk was being recognized as a valuable tool for managing anxiety and depression.
It's a timeless principle. And speaking of timeless, the course also offers some pretty interesting insights on the power of gratitude.
Yes, gratitude. I remember that Less Stress Press newsletter excerpt called Lucinda's Letter. It's all about gratitude.
That's the one. And I thought it made a really compelling argument for, focusing on what we have rather than what we lack.
It's easy to fall into that trap of, I want more, always striving for the next achievement, the next possession.
It is. And it suggests that cultivating gratitude can actually shift our entire perspective.
Leading to greater happiness and contentment.
Exactly. It's a simple but profound shift in focus. And you know what? The newsletter even suggests something they call a gratitude check.
A gratitude check.
Yeah, like taking a few moments each day to consciously acknowledge the things you're grateful for.
What a beautiful practice.
It is. And it could be anything, really. The warmth of the sun, a delicious meal, the laughter of loved ones, a good parking spot.
Those seemingly small things can really make a big difference in our overall outlook, can't they?
They can. And the more we practice gratitude, the more those little joys start to stand out. It's like we're training our brains to notice the positive.
I love that analogy, training the brain. It emphasizes that gratitude is a skill we can actually cultivate with practice. And speaking of skills, one of the things that really resonated with me throughout this whole course is the importance it places on self-awareness.
Self-awareness.
Yeah, like really getting to know ourselves, our patterns, our triggers.
Absolutely. I think self-awareness is the foundation of this entire program.
It's woven into every concept and strategy.
It is. From the very beginning, it encourages listeners to be honest with themselves about their anxiety and depression levels, their experiences, and it uses, questionnaires and inventories.
So we can identify our triggers, our negative thought patterns.
Exactly. Even those sneaky resistance behaviors that, let's face it, we all engage in sometimes.
Oh, I know all about resistance. But how do we actually become more self-aware?
Well, the course really emphasizes the importance of a personal journal.
Ah, good old journaling.
Right. And it suggests writing down your experiences, your thoughts, your feelings, even those aha moments of insight.
So it's about creating that space for reflection and self-discovery.
Exactly. Journaling provides a way to, track your progress, notice patterns, and ultimately gain a deeper understanding of yourself. I think that's actually a perfect note to end this part of our deep dive on.
I agree. We've covered so much ground, managing anxiety attacks, overcoming limitations, and ultimately the importance of self-awareness as a foundation for all of it. But there's still more to explore.
There is.
So when we come back in part 3, we'll delve into some additional insights and strategies from these, sometimes surprising, materials from the 80s. Welcome back to our deep dive into attacking anxiety and depression straight from the 1980s.
The 80s. A decade known for its bold fashion choices, and as we're discovering, some pretty interesting approaches to mental health.
It's been a trip down memory lane, that's for sure. But throughout this exploration, I've been really struck by the course's emphasis on the connection between our minds and bodies.
It's not just about our thoughts and feelings, right? It's also about how we care for our physical well-being.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like this whole holistic approach that recognizes anxiety and depression. Well, they're not just mental states,
They have real physiological components that need to be addressed.
Absolutely. Which makes me think about the relaxation tape that's mentioned throughout the course materials.
Oh, yes. The relaxation tape.
It seems to be like a cornerstone of the program What can you tell us about it?
Well, the relaxation tape is a guided audio recording that encourages listeners to practice relaxation techniques, like multiple times a day.
Interesting. So what does this relaxation tape actually involve? Is it like guided meditation or soothing nature sounds?
It's actually a combination of progressive muscle relaxation and visualization techniques. It guides you through, systematically tensing and releasing different muscle groups in your body.
Oh, I've heard of that. Tensing and releasing muscles.
Right. And at the same time, you're encouraged to kind of visualize a peaceful, calming scene in your mind.
Oh, that sounds really nice. Like a mini vacation for your mind.
It is. And it can be incredibly effective.
I bet. Why do you think the course creators put so much emphasis on this relaxation tape?
Well, there's a Less Stress Press article that actually sheds some light on that. It argues that regular use of this relaxation tape can have a pretty profound impact on managing anxiety and depression.
Yes. I remember reading that article. It basically suggests that with consistent practice, our bodies and minds can become, conditioned to relax more easily, even in those really stressful moments.
Exactly. It's like creating a shortcut to a state of calm, almost like a reflex. So over time, your body learns to associate the cues from the tape, the instructions, the imagery, the music with relaxation. And then it becomes easier to access that relaxed state, even when you're not listening to the tape.
So it's almost like training your body to relax on command.
In a way, yes.
It's fascinating how our bodies can learn to respond like that. What other benefits does the article mention?
Oh, it suggests that the relaxation tech can do all sorts of things, like improve sleep, reduce muscle tension, and even boost memory and concentration.
Wow, it sounds like a wonder tape.
It kind of is. And it really highlights the understanding that managing anxiety and depression isn't just about changing, negative thought patterns, but it's also about cultivating a state of, well, physical and mental relaxation.
So it's a reminder that we need to address all aspects of our well-being, right? Mind, body, and spirit.
I think so.
As we approach the end of our deep dive into this 1980s self-help course, I keep coming back to one theme, this unwavering belief in the possibility of change.
It's true. The course really emphasizes that. And while it acknowledges that change can be, well, challenging,
It's not always easy, that's for sure.
it never loses sight of the fact that it is possible. It encourages listeners to, really embrace the journey of personal growth, even with all of its inevitable bumps and detours along the way.
It's a message that I think resonates deeply, especially for anyone who's feeling stuck or overwhelmed by their anxiety and depression. And that's a lot of people.
It is, and I appreciate how this course really empowers listeners to become active participants in their own healing process.
So it's not about waiting for a miracle cure.
It's not. It's about taking those even small but consistent steps towards a better life, towards a calmer, happier you.
It's a good reminder that we're not victims of our circumstances, right?
Yeah.
We have the power to shape our experiences and create a more fulfilling life, even if it takes time.
It does. And while this course, as you keep reminding me, may be from the 1980s,
I can't help it. It's like a time capsule of self-help advice.
it is. But its wisdom is timeless. It reminds us that the journey of personal growth is ongoing, and it's okay to be, well, perfectly imperfect along the way.
I think that's a beautiful message to leave our listeners with. So as we wrap up this deep dive into attacking anxiety and depression, I want to thank you for joining us on this exploration, and I hope you've gained some valuable insights along the way, even if some of the advice is a bit retro.
It's been fun. And hey, sometimes those old school approaches can offer a fresh perspective.
They can. And remember, as we learn from this deep dive, the power to change your experience truly lies within you. So until next time, keep diving deep and keep seeking those nuggets of wisdom that can transform your life wherever you find them.